A human rookie walked in, and the deadliest predator became her pet, reaches its dramatic zenith when a reactor leak triggers station-wide chaos. As containment barriers fail, X-99 breaks free. Security teams rush in with weapons drawn. But Alara places herself between them and the creature. Instead of attacking, the Void Lynx protects her, standing loyally by her side, proving to everyone that monsters can become allies. The pale blue glow of the docking lights illuminated Cadet Alara Novak's face as she stared through the viewport at Nexus Station. The massive orbital research facility hung against the inky backdrop of space, its rotating rings and jutting observation towers silhouetted against the distant crimson gas giant of the Vora system. She swallowed hard, clutching her deployment orders. "First human assigned to Nexus in 5 years," the shuttle pilot remarked, his tentacled appendages dancing across the control panel. Nervous, Alara straightened her shoulders, the crisp fabric of her Interstellar Defense Academy uniform still stiff with newness. "Excited," she corrected, though her voice betrayed her. At 22, fresh from graduation, this deep space xenobiology research hub represented everything she'd worked toward. "They study the deadliest creatures in known space here," the pilot continued, initiating docking procedures. "Been operating for 2 decades now. Over 150 species work together cataloging, containing, and understanding the universe's most lethal life forms." Alara nodded, recalling her briefing files. Nexus Station was the pinnacle of interspecies cooperation and the front line of defense against biological threats that could devastate colonized worlds. Getting assigned here straight out of the Academy was both an honor and a statement. Humans needed to prove themselves. The docking clamps engaged with a resonant thud that vibrated through the shuttle's hull. Alara gathered her regulation duffel and straightened her collar. "Welcome to Nexus Station," announced the automated system. "Please proceed through decontamination." Stepping through the airlock, Alara was immediately struck by the station's unique atmosphere, not just the carefully calibrated oxygen-nitrogen mix, but the mingling of alien species in the arrival bay. Towering insectoids conversed with gelatinous beings, suspended in hovering containment fields. Humanoid researchers with scales, feathers, and exoskeletons moved purposefully through the crowds. A tall, broad-shouldered figure approached, his dark blue skin marked with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with unmistakable irritation. Commander Rake Kraus, Alara recognized from her briefing materials. The Vexarian's 4 eyes narrowed as he assessed her. "Cadet Novak," he rumbled, not extending a greeting limb. "Another human experiment." Alara saluted crisply. "Reporting for duty, Commander." "Follow me." Kraus turned abruptly, his ceremonial cape billowing behind him. "Your species lacks the instinctive understanding necessary for this work," he said over his shoulder. "The last human we accepted lasted 3 months before requesting transfer." Alara quickened her pace to keep up with his long strides. "I've studied extensively on apex predator psychology, sir. My thesis on cross-species communication patterns?" "Academic theory," Kraus interrupted, stepping onto a gravity lift. "Nexus deals with reality. The reality of creatures evolved to kill, maim, and consume. Your empathetic approach is a weakness here." They ascended through the station's central atrium, passing research laboratories, where transparent barriers revealed scientists of various species analyzing specimens. Alara caught glimpses of creatures that defied classification, writhing masses of tentacles, crystalline entities that seemed to phase in and out of visible spectrum, armored behemoths restrained by energy fields. "You'll report to Dr. Mivar Zem," Kraus continued as they exited the lift onto a quieter level, marked administration. "Our xenobiology lead has reservations about your assignment, but the Interspecies Council insisted on human representation." A slender, almost skeletal being glided toward them from an office doorway. Dr. Mivar Zem had the appearance of an upright mantis, crossed with an ancient Egyptian mummy, desiccated, precise, and ancient. His compound eyes glittered with intelligence as he studied Ilara. "So small," he observed, his mandibles clicking softly. "So fragile. Yet they send you to study our most dangerous specimens." "Dr. Zem," Ilara acknowledged, refusing to be intimidated. "I'm looking forward to learning from your expertise." The xenobiologist's head tilted at an unsettling angle. "You humans and your optimism. Perhaps it will survive your first tour." He gestured with a delicate limb. "Your quarters have been prepared on Level 3. Report to Laboratory Complex 4 at 0700 tomorrow for orientation and assignment." As Ilara turned to leave, Dr. Zem added, "One advisory, cadet. Stay clear of Level 7. The maximum security wing is no place for beginners." Later, settled into her sparse quarters, Ilara reviewed the station schematics on her datapad. Level 7's maximum security wing contained the most dangerous specimens, those classified beyond containment categories, A through F. Her security clearance offered minimal information, but one designation caught her attention: X-99. The entry was mostly redacted, but what remained sent a chill down her spine. 8-limbed void links. Origin: unknown. Threat level: Omega. Casualties: 9 confirmed. A notification chimed, interrupting her research. An automated message from station orientation welcomed her and outlined her first day's schedule. At the bottom, a personal note had been appended. "If you need technical assistance, contact Relo Thane, Systems Bay 12. Not all of us share Krause's views on humans." Ilara smiled. Perhaps she would find allies after all. The next morning arrived with the artificial lighting cycle, simulating dawn through her viewport. Ilara, dressed in her research uniform, reinforced fabric designed to resist acid, claws, and temperature extremes, and made her way to Laboratory Complex 4. The orientation was brisk and impersonal. A holographic presentation outlined safety protocols, emergency procedures, and containment hierarchies. Dr. Zem presided, occasionally inserting comments about human physiological vulnerabilities with thinly veiled satisfaction. "You will begin in Observation Pod 3, he announced as the presentation concluded. "Studying Vorpal butterfly migration patterns. A suitably safe assignment." Ilara bit back her disappointment. Vorpal butterflies, while technically classified as dangerous due to their hallucinogenic spores, were hardly the challenging specimens she'd hoped to work with. "With respect, Doctor," she ventured, "my specialization is in predatory behavior. Perhaps I could assist with—" "You will observe the butterflies," Dr. Zem interrupted, mandibles clicking sharply. "Prove your competence with the harmless before requesting the lethal. That is our protocol." For 2 weeks, Ilara dutifully recorded the butterflies' feeding and mating behaviors. She wrote meticulous reports, volunteered for extra shifts, and spent her free time studying the station's specimen database. She made few friends. Most researchers maintained professional distance, though a few nodded in acknowledgement when passing in corridors. On her 15th day, a message appeared on her datapad. "Systems Bay 12, 2100 hours, RT." Relo Thane proved to be a surprise. The technician was Terran-born, but had clearly undergone extensive genetic modification. Gill slits pulsed along his neck, and his fingers were webbed. He grinned as Ilara entered his cluttered workshop. "The human rookie! I was beginning to think you'd never take my invitation." Ilara glanced around at the jumble of tech. Half-dismantled drones, holographic projectors, and mysterious devices blinking with multicolored lights. "I've been trying to maintain a low profile." "Smart," Relo nodded, pushing aside a tangle of cables to reveal 2 chairs. "Krause has it out for humans, ever since Sarah Martinez reorganized his precious security protocols 5 years ago. Made him look incompetent. He gestured for her to sit. But that's not why you're here, is it? You want to know about Level 7. Alara hesitated, then nodded. I'm stuck cataloging butterfly migration while the real research happens elsewhere. Zem's keeping you on a tight leash. Rilo agreed, tapping commands into a console. A holographic display materialized between them, showing Level 7's layout. The maximum security wing houses 12 Omega-class specimens. The most interesting, and dangerous, is this one. The display zoomed in on an isolated chamber, larger than the others and surrounded by multiple barrier systems. X-99. What is it exactly? Alara asked, leaning forward. No one knows for certain. It was captured during an exploratory mission to the Void Rift. Some call it a Void Lynx because of its general shape, but that's where the resemblance to any known species ends. Rilo's expression grew serious. It's killed 9 researchers, 3 during capture, 6 during containment attempts. Why keep it alive? Its biology is unique. Cellular regeneration beyond anything we've documented. Sensory capabilities that defy our understanding of physics and intelligence. Rilo hesitated. Dr. Zem insists it's just an animal. But some of us think there's more going on in that creature's mind. Alara studied the hologram, noting the elaborate security measures. I want to see it. Rilo laughed. Impossible. Level 7 clearance requires 6 months probation and Krause's personal approval. There must be observation feeds. Heavily restricted. Rilo's gills fluttered in what might have been amusement. Though, station systems are complex. Security permissions occasionally glitch during maintenance cycles. The next day, a notification appeared on Alara's datapad. Maintenance cycle scheduled, 0200-0300. Temporary system permissions may fluctuate. Systems administration. That night, Alara waited until the station's corridors emptied for the sleep cycle. Her datapad glowed with temporary access to security feeds. Rilo's work, she presumed. Navigating to Level 7's cameras, she found X-99's containment chamber. The Void Lynx was unlike anything she'd imagined. Midnight black. Its 8 limbs moved with liquid grace as it paced its enclosure. Its head bore similarities to Earth's big cats, but with unsettling differences. No visible eyes, yet an awareness that seemed to track the camera's movements. Its skin rippled with patterns that absorbed rather than reflected light, creating the impression of a moving tear in reality. Alara watched, transfixed, as X-99 performed what appeared to be deliberate exercises, stretching, leaping, testing the barriers with measured touches. This was no mindless predator. Every movement spoke of calculation, patience, and intelligence. A log entry from Dr. Zem appeared alongside the feed. X-99 continues to resist conditioning. Pain response inadequate for behavioral modification. Recommend termination and dissection. Alara's brow furrowed. Pain response. She searched the archives, finding footage of previous research sessions. Her stomach turned as she watched researchers prod X-99 with neural stimulators, sending the creature into spasms of agony when it failed to perform desired behaviors. No wonder it had attacked. They weren't studying it. They were torturing it. The next day, Alara went through her butterfly observations mechanically, her mind elsewhere. During lunch, she found herself near Rilo's workspace and slipped inside. I need to know more about X-99, she said without preamble. Rilo looked up from a circuit board, his expression guarded. What you saw in those feeds is wrong, Alara finished. They're treating a sentient being like a lab rat. Careful, Rilo warned, lowering his voice. Those are dangerous opinions on Nexus. X-99 is classified as a biological weapon, not a sentient. Based on what evidence? Has anyone tried communicating with it? Rilo's gills fluttered nervously. Communication attempts ended after the third researcher lost an arm. He hesitated, then added, But there's a training tour of Level 7 tomorrow. New security personnel. I could add your name to the list. Alara's heart raced. Do it! The tour group consisted of 6 new security officers from various species, and Alara, conspicuous in her research uniform, the guide. Security Chief Nara Voss was a towering reptilian female with scarred scales and alert, vertical-pupilled eyes. Level 7 houses specimens that could end civilizations, she explained, as they passed through multiple checkpoints. Your job is containment, not research. If anything breaches its enclosure, you hit the emergency protocols and evacuate. No exceptions. They approached the final corridor, where a massive reinforced door marked the entrance to X-99's chamber. A secondary control room allowed observation through energy-shielded viewports. Our most dangerous resident, Chief Voss announced. X-99, approach the barriers at your peril. The security trainees murmured as the void links came into view. It was even more impressive in person, larger than Alara had estimated from the feeds, its movements possessing a hypnotic quality. As the group watched, it turned toward them, its featureless face oriented precisely at their position. Can it see us? One trainee asked. It doesn't see the way we do, Chief Voss replied. Its sensory systems detect energy patterns, including thoughts. That's why researchers wear psionic dampeners in its presence. Alara frowned. If X-99 could sense thoughts, then the pain-based conditioning would have been even more traumatic. The creature would have felt the researcher's intent before the pain began. Has anyone tried? She began, but was interrupted by a sudden alarm. The station shuddered. Emergency lights flashed. Meteor impact. Sector 14, announced the automated system. Power fluctuations detected. The lights in the observation room flickered. Through the viewport, Alara saw the inner energy barrier around X-99's enclosure waver and fail. Containment breach imminent, Chief Voss barked into her communicator. Evacuate Level 7. Initiate Protocol Omega. The security trainees scrambled for the exit. Chief Voss grabbed Alara's arm. Move! Researcher! But Alara's attention was fixed on X-99. The creature had risen to its full height, poised to leap through the compromised barrier. This was the moment it would escape, would take revenge for its treatment. Instead, it hesitated, its head tilted, as if confused by the absence of researchers with pain devices. It locked onto Alara's position, the only one still watching. In that moment, Alara made a decision that would change her life. Breaking free from Chief Voss's grip, she lunged for the control panel. Years of academy training guided her fingers as she bypassed the emergency protocols and manually re-engaged the inner barrier. The energy field snapped back into place just as X-99 approached it. Rather than rage or attack, the void lynx retreated to the far corner of its enclosure, folding its limbs beneath it in an almost peaceful posture. What the hell were you thinking? Chief Voss roared, dragging Alara away from the controls. You could have gotten us all killed. It wasn't trying to escape, Alara insisted. It was curious. Didn't you see? When it realized the barrier was down, it didn't rush out. It approached cautiously. That's enough, Cadet, Voss snapped. Report to Commander Kraus for disciplinary action. Kraus was furious. His bioluminescent markings pulsed angry red as he paced his office. You directly violated evacuation orders, he thundered. Endangered yourself and Chief Voss. And for what? A theory about a killer's behavior. With respect, sir, Alara replied, standing at attention. X-99's actions contradict its classification as mindlessly aggressive. It had an opportunity to escape and chose not to take it. One incident proves nothing. Then let me prove it with more evidence, Alara countered. Give me access to study X-99 properly, without pain devices or neural stimulators. Kraus stopped pacing to glare at her with all 4 eyes. Absolutely not. You're confined to quarters for 2 days. When you return to duty, You will remain on level 3 with your butterflies. The regulations permit any researcher to request reassignment if they identify a pattern warranting investigation. Alara cited, remembering her rulebook studies. I formally request reassignment to X-99's case. Denied, Kraus spat. You lack seniority, experience, and the necessary clearance. Then I'll appeal to the Interspecies Council, Alara said, surprising herself with her boldness. They mandated human representation in all research divisions. Kraus's markings pulsed even brighter. You would challenge my authority? I would pursue scientific truth, Alara replied evenly. Isn't that Nexus Station's purpose? For a moment, she thought Kraus might physically remove her from his office. Instead, he hissed through clenched teeth. 3 supervised observation sessions. No direct contact. After which, Dr. Zem will evaluate your findings and determine if further study is warranted. His eyes narrowed. When you fail, and you will fail, you'll accept reassignment without complaint. Agreed, Alara said, barely containing her excitement. Over the next week, Alara spent every permitted moment studying X-99 through observation room viewports. She requested all historical footage, noting patterns others had missed. The Void Lynx's attacks always followed provocations, pain stimuli, aggressive movements, or attempts to sedate it for invasive procedures. She began simple tests. During her first official session, she sat quietly, making no sudden movements. X-99 initially paced warily, then gradually settled, occasionally glancing toward her position. On the second day, she brought a small music device. Classical Earth compositions filled the observation room, audible to X-99 through the communication systems. The creature's reaction was immediate. It ceased all movement, its head angled toward the sound source. Interesting, noted the security officer assigned to monitor her. Never seen it so still. Alara switched to different musical styles, percussive tribal rhythms, ethereal alien harmonies, synthetic compositions. X-99 showed preferences, moving closer to the barrier during rhythmic pieces, retreating from discordant sounds. For her third session, Alara brought a simple tapping tool. She established a pattern: 3 taps, pause, 2 taps, pause, 3 taps, repeated consistently for 30 minutes. On the 4th repetition, X-99 approached the barrier. On the 7th, it raised a limb. On the 12th, it mirrored her pattern, tapping the energy field with precise movements. The security officer straightened in alarm. It's never done that before. It's communicating, Alara whispered, her heart racing. Not attacking, responding. She varied the pattern. X-99 observed, then replicated each new sequence perfectly. When she deliberately made an error, the Void Lynx paused, then tapped the correct sequence, correcting her mistake. This is beyond mimicry, Alara told Dr. Zem later, presenting her findings. X-99 demonstrates pattern recognition, problem-solving, and intentional communication. The xenobiologist's compound eyes reflected the data screens with cold disinterest. Instinctive responses, nothing more. Many predators use pattern recognition to lure prey. With respect, Doctor, there's no evolutionary advantage to mathematical sequence completion in hunting. Perhaps it's assessing weaknesses in our containment systems, Dr. Zem suggested. Looking for patterns to exploit. Alara shook her head. If that were true, it would have escaped during the power failure. One aberrant incident is hardly conclusive, Dr. Zem dismissed. Your 3 sessions are complete. Cadet, return to your assigned duties. You agreed to evaluate my findings. And I have, Dr. Zem rose, towering over her. They are insufficient to warrant continued resources. X-99 will remain under standard containment protocols. Standard protocols? Alara's voice rose. You mean neural stimulators and pain conditioning? The xenobiologist's mandibles clicked in warning. Be careful, human. Commander Kraus has tolerated your insubordination thus far, but my patience is not so elastic. Frustrated, but undeterred, Alara returned to her butterfly observations. By day, she performed her assigned duties flawlessly, earning grudging acknowledgement from her supervisors. By night, with Relo's covert assistance, she reviewed X-99 footage, compiling evidence for a formal appeal. "You're obsessed," Rilo observed one evening, watching her annotate behavioral patterns. "Why risk your career for this creature?" Alara paused, considering. "Because everyone's wrong about it. They see a monster, but I see something remarkable, something misunderstood." She smiled ruefully. "Maybe I identify with being underestimated." 2 weeks later, Rilo slipped her a security chip. "Tonight, 0100 hours. Level 7 monitoring systems undergo maintenance. 30 minutes of unlogged access." "You could lose your position for this," Alara warned. Rilo's gills fluttered in what she now recognized as his equivalent of a shrug. "Some questions are worth answering." That night, Alara used the security chip to access Level 7's secondary observation room. The Void Lynx was awake, pacing its enclosure with the restless energy she now associated with boredom rather than aggression. She activated the communication system. "Hello, X-99, she said softly. The creature froze, then slowly turned toward her voice. It approached the barrier, moving with deliberate care, showing none of the aggression recorded in official sessions. Alara began humming, a simple melody from her childhood. X-99 settled before the barrier, its limbs arranged in what she interpreted as a listening posture. When she finished, it made a low, resonant sound, not quite humming, but harmonically complex. "You understand music," she whispered. "What else do you understand?" She pulled up simple visual symbols on her datapad, shapes, colors, basic mathematical representations, and displayed them against the viewport. X-99 studied each one, occasionally mirroring the shapes with its limbs. "You're not just intelligent," Alara realized. "You're trying to communicate back." The maintenance cycle warning chimed, 5 minutes remaining before systems reset. Impulsively, Alara pressed her palm against the viewport. "I'll come back," she promised. "I'll find a way to help you." X-99 extended a limb, placing it against the barrier in perfect alignment with her hand. For the next month, Alara lived a double life. By day, the exemplary cadet, gradually earning increased responsibilities and access. By night, secret sessions with X-99, developing a rudimentary communication system through patterns, sounds, and movements. She discovered the Void Lynx responded strongly to emotions. Fear triggered defensive postures. Aggression caused withdrawal. Calm curiosity elicited what she could only describe as reciprocal interest. "It's empathic," she told Rilo during one of their increasingly frequent meetings. "Not just sensing thoughts, feeling intentions." "If that's true," Rilo mused, "then the researchers' attitudes toward it would have been like psychological torture." Alara finished. "They approached with fear and dominance. It responded defensively, confirming their assumptions about its aggression." "A self-fulfilling prophecy," Rilo nodded. "But Kraus and Zem will never accept that interpretation without irrefutable proof." "Then I'll get proof," Alara declared. Her opportunity came unexpectedly. During a routine systems check, a power coupling on Level 5 overloaded, triggering a cascade failure through adjacent sectors. Emergency protocols engaged, but conflicting commands from automated systems caused multiple containment fields to fluctuate. Alara was in her quarters when the emergency alarms blared. Her datapad flashed with urgent notifications, power failures across multiple levels, including Level 7. Without hesitation, she raced toward the emergency access tubes. Station personnel scrambled in controlled chaos, too focused on their assigned emergency stations to question her presence. Using Relo's security codes, she accessed Level 7 just as the secondary power systems engaged. The maximum security wing was bathed in red emergency lighting. Through the viewport, she saw X-99's enclosure. The inner barrier had failed completely, while the outer containment field flickered unstably. Security teams would arrive within minutes. Once they saw the compromised barriers, standard protocol would authorize lethal force. Alara made her decision in an instant. Overriding the observation room door, she entered the antechamber, separating the observation area from X-99's enclosure. A final barrier, currently unstable, was all that stood between her and the void links. X-99, she called, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. Can you understand me? The creature turned toward her voice, its featureless face somehow conveying attention. It approached the flickering barrier cautiously. The security teams are coming, Alara continued. They'll consider you a threat if you're outside your designated area. She pointed to the far corner, where the inner containment barrier, though disabled, marked X-99's normal boundaries. Safety, she said clearly, repeating a concept she'd established in their secret sessions. Return to safety. The void links hesitated. The outer barrier between them sparked and wavered. Please, Alara whispered. At that moment, the outer barrier failed completely. Nothing separated Alara from the deadliest predator on Nexus Station. X-99 stood motionless, its midnight form absorbing the emergency lights. 8 limbs unfolded to their full extension, a posture Alara had never witnessed before. It could cross the distance between them in seconds. Footsteps and shouted commands echoed from the corridor. Security teams, arriving with heavy weapons. Safety, Alara repeated, gesturing again to the corner. She removed her helmet, activating its light function, and pointed it toward the designated area. Follow the light. The void lynx's head tilted, considering. Then, with fluid grace, it moved, not toward her, but following the beam of light back to its corner. It settled into position just as Commander Kraus burst through the doorway, flanked by armed security officers. "Containment breach," he roared. "Weapons free." "Stop!" Alara cried, placing herself between the security team and X-99. "The specimen is contained. It returned voluntarily." Kraus's 4 eyes widened in shock, taking in the scene, the failed barriers. Alara standing unharmed, X-99 sitting calmly in its designated area. "Impossible," he breathed. "Sir," Chief Voss said, lowering her weapon slightly. "The human is right. X-99 appears to be complying." "A temporary aberration," Dr. Zem declared, entering behind the security team. "The creature is manipulating us. Re-engage containment fields immediately." Engineers rushed to repair the barriers, while Kraus ordered Alara removed from Level 7. As security officers escorted her out, she glanced back at X-99. The void lynx remained still, watching her departure. "You've exceeded all boundaries of acceptable conduct," Kraus raged later in his office. "Unauthorized access to a restricted area during an emergency. Direct contact with an Omega-class specimen. By all rights. I should have you removed from this station immediately." Alara stood at attention, her expression resolute. "X-99 could have killed me, sir. It chose not to. More than that, it followed my guidance back to containment." "Coincidence," Dr. Zem insisted from his position by the wall. "The creature was disoriented by the power fluctuations." "With respect, Doctor, that's demonstrably false," Alara countered. "I've been conducting communication sessions with X-99 for weeks. It understands concepts like safety zones and follows directions when approached without aggression." "Unauthorized sessions?" Kraus bellowed. "You admit to multiple violations?" "I admit to pursuing scientific truth when official channels were closed to me," Alara replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "And I've gathered conclusive evidence that X-99 is sentient, empathic, and capable of cooperative behavior. Evidence gathered through protocol violations is inadmissible, Dr. Zem stated flatly. Then let me prove it officially, Alara challenged. A controlled demonstration. If I'm wrong, I'll accept any punishment you deem appropriate. Krause's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with conflicting emotions. And if you're killed during this demonstration, the diplomatic incident would be catastrophic. I'll sign a comprehensive waiver, Alara offered. Full personal responsibility. After hours of heated debate, a compromise was reached. A formal tribunal would convene to evaluate X-99's status. Alara would present her evidence, including a limited demonstration under maximum security conditions. The outcome would determine both X-99's fate and Alara's future on Nexus Station. For 3 days, Alara prepared. Relo provided technical assistance, helping her compile video evidence and communication logs. Surprisingly, other allies emerged. A junior xenobiologist offered behavioral analysis support. Chief Voss, impressed by what she'd witnessed during the containment breach, arranged for enhanced but non-lethal security measures during the demonstration. The tribunal convened in a specially modified chamber adjacent to X-99's enclosure. Commander Krause presided, flanked by Dr. Zem and 3 senior researchers from different disciplines. Observation galleries held numerous station personnel. Word of the unprecedented hearing had spread. This tribunal will evaluate Cadet Alara Novak's claims regarding specimen X-99, Krause announced formally. The proceedings will determine whether current containment protocols require modification. Alara presented her evidence methodically: behavior pattern analyses, communication logs, comparative intelligence assessments. She explained her theory of empathic sensitivity and demonstrated how aggression triggered defensive responses. X-99 doesn't attack unprovoked, she concluded. It reacts to perceived threats. When approached with calm curiosity, it displays reciprocal behavior. Theory without sufficient foundation, Dr. Zem dismissed. 9 researchers died. After approaching with fear, dominance, or pain devices, Alara interrupted. Their intentions were hostile, and X-99 sensed that hostility. Murmurs rippled through the observation gallery. Krause called for order. You've presented intriguing correlations, he acknowledged grudgingly. But correlation is not causation. Your proposed demonstration will proceed under strict safety protocols. The adjoining chamber had been prepared with a transparent partition replacing one wall of X-99's enclosure. Multiple redundant barriers could be activated instantly if needed. Armed security teams stood ready, though their weapons were set to stun at Chief Voss's insistence. Alara entered alone, carrying only a simple musical instrument, a handheld synthesizer programmed with sequences she'd developed during her secret sessions. X-99 was already positioned near the transparent wall, as if anticipating her arrival. The Void Lynx's posture conveyed what Alara had learned to recognize as attentive waiting. Hello, friend, she said softly, approaching the barrier. We have an audience today. Behind the observation windows, tribunal members and station personnel watched in tense silence. Dr. Zem's mandibles clicked nervously. Commander Krause's hands hovered near the emergency containment controls. Alara began with music, playing a gentle sequence she knew X-99 favored. The Void Lynx settled into a listening posture, its limbs arranged symmetrically. Next came pattern work. Alara displayed geometric shapes on a screen, which X-99 mirrored with its limbs. She deliberately introduced errors, which the Void Lynx corrected, demonstrating not just mimicry, but understanding. Now for the crucial test, Alara announced to the observers. She activated a program Relo had developed, a series of simple logic puzzles displayed on the screen, problems no mere animal could solve. X-99 studied each puzzle, then used its limbs to indicate solutions, matching patterns, completing sequences, even basic mathematical operations. Gasps and murmurs rose from the observation gallery. Even Dr. Zem leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his skepticism. For the final demonstration, Ilara requested the inner barrier be briefly lowered, allowing direct contact with X-99. "Absolutely not," Krauss objected. "Sir," Chief Voss interjected, "the specimen has shown no aggression throughout the demonstration. Security teams are positioned to respond instantly if needed." After tense deliberation, Krauss reluctantly authorized a 5-second barrier deactivation. "At the first sign of threat behavior, we terminate the specimen," he warned. Ilara nodded, then turned to X-99. "I'm going to approach you directly," she explained, knowing the Void Lynx understood her intent, if not her exact words. "No barriers between us. Trust." The inner barrier shimmered and vanished. Nothing separated Ilara from X-99. With measured movements, she extended her hand, palm outward, the universal gesture of peaceful contact. The chamber fell silent. Security officers raised their weapons. X-99 unfolded from its position, rising to its full height, nearly twice Ilara's. Its midnight form seemed to absorb light from the room as it moved forward with liquid grace. Behind the observation glass, Dr. Zem's mandibles clicked rapidly. Commander Krauss's finger hovered over the emergency containment override. The Void Lynx extended a limb, smooth, cool, surprisingly gentle, and placed it against Ilara's palm, not grasping, not threatening, connecting. 5 seconds passed. The barrier re-engaged. Ilara stepped back, her face radiant with vindication. "Sentient," she declared to the stunned tribunal. "Intelligent, capable of trust and cooperation when approached with respect." The tribunal's deliberations lasted hours. Arguments raged about methodology, ethics, and security implications. Ultimately, Commander Krauss emerged with the verdict. "Based on demonstrated evidence," he announced stiffly, "Specimen X-99 is reclassified as a sentient research partner. Standard containment protocols will be modified to accommodate communication sessions and supervised interaction. Cadet Ilara Novak is appointed Junior Chief of Interspecies Relations, tasked with developing a comprehensive communication framework." Station reaction was mixed. Some researchers protested, citing security concerns. Others were intrigued by the research possibilities. A vocal minority, led by Relo Thane, enthusiastically supported the decision, advocating for a new paradigm. Partnership, not imprisonment. In the weeks that followed, X-99's enclosure was redesigned. Less a cell, more a habitat. Barriers remained for security, but controlled access points allowed for direct interaction sessions. The Void Lynx seemed to understand the significance of these changes, cooperating with every adjustment. Ilara spent hours each day with her unlikely partner, refining their communication system. She discovered X-99 had a remarkable capacity for language acquisition, gradually understanding simple verbal commands alongside the established pattern language. "It needs a name," Relo suggested during one observation session. "Something besides a specimen number." Ilara watched as X-99 manipulated holographic symbols, constructing increasingly complex patterns. "Nova," she decided, "for new beginnings." The Void Lynx, Nova, tilted its head at the sound, as if recognizing its new designation. 3 months after the tribunal, Nova's unique abilities found practical application, when a laboratory accident trapped researchers behind collapsed bulkheads. Nova's sensitivity to energy patterns located survivors that sensors missed. Under Ilara's guidance, the former Deadliest predator became the station's first companion creature, assisting in rescue drills and security patrols. Commander Krauss remained skeptical, but couldn't argue with results. "Your methods were unorthodox," he admitted grudgingly during a performance review. "But effective. Perhaps there is something to this partnership approach." "It's about understanding before judging," Ilara replied. "Nova was labeled a monster because no one took the time to see beyond their fear, Dr. Zem proved more difficult to convince. The xenobiologist maintained professional distance from the Nova project, as it came to be known. Yet Alara occasionally caught him observing their sessions, his compound eyes reflecting what might have been scientific curiosity. A year after Alara's arrival on Nexus Station, a groundbreaking new research program began, studying the development of a human Vexarian hybrid child, the first of its kind. The sensitive infant required careful monitoring for developmental anomalies and health concerns. To everyone's surprise, Nova showed particular interest in the hybrid child, positioning itself near the nursery whenever permitted. Its empathic sensitivity seemed to detect the infant's needs before monitoring equipment-registered changes. "Remarkable," observed the medical director, as Nova indicated the hybrid's increasing distress seconds before alarm sounded. "It's like having an emotional early warning system." During one observation session, Alara stood beside Commander Kraus, watching Nova gently interact with the hybrid child through a protective barrier. "When you arrived," Kraus said quietly, "I told you humans lack instinctive understanding of predators." Alara smiled. "And I thought Vexarians lacked the capacity to admit mistakes." To her surprise, Kraus's bioluminescent patterns flickered in what she now recognized as amusement. "Perhaps we've all been prisoners of our preconceptions." As Nexus Station continued its mission of scientific discovery, the unlikely partnership between a human rookie and the deadliest predator in known space became a symbol of possibility, a reminder that understanding could bridge the deepest divides, and that even the most feared monster might become the most loyal ally when shown respect instead of fear. In the nursery, Nova settled beside the hybrid child's enclosure, its midnight form a stark contrast to the infant's pale blue skin. The former void lynx extended a gentle limb toward the barrier, mirroring the gesture Alara had first offered in trust. The hybrid child reached back, tiny fingers splayed against the transparent surface. Two beings, fundamentally different, connected by curiosity instead of fear. A new beginning, indeed.